This has never happened before. Crimea was plunged into a total blackout after a Ukrainian missile strike. Drones are powerfully attacking Sochi. Putin is convening an emergency meeting. Trump gave the green light. The Ukrainian armed forces have launched a major offensive. The main target is Donetsk. They embarrassed themselves in front of the whole world. A Russian spy submarine broke down and surfaced off the coast of France. Trump met with Zelensky. Putin is furious about the outcome of this meeting. A street singer who performed Noize MC songs in Saint Petersburg is facing a long prison sentence for discrediting the army. A Chechen clown, loyal to Kadyrov, was awarded a medal for the capture of Berlin. Hello, my name is Yulia Kokan, and right now, here are the top stories. But first, please like this video and subscribe to our channel so we don't lose each other on YouTube. The occupiers' morning definitely didn't start with coffee. In temporarily occupied Crimea, an oil depot in Vardiska, which belongs to a leading gas station network, was attacked.
The oil depot in Vardiska belongs to the Atan gas station network, which is owned by LLC Kadyrov, the owner of the largest network of leading gas stations in Crimea under the Atan brand. More than 100 gas stations, an oil depot, and a fleet of fuel trucks.
In addition, several power substations in Crimea have been damaged, and an ammunition depot was attacked.
There they go. Oh, wow.
It looks like it was a direct hit because local channels are reporting widespread power outages across the peninsula. But that's just the beginning, because the Crimean occupiers were so desperate to shoot down the drones that they ended up shooting down their own Su-30 fighter jet.
They were repelling Ukrainian attacks so intensely that as a result, they managed to shoot down their own plane today over Crimea. Right now, the wreckage is being collected in Crimea.
It was a restless night in Donetsk as well. An ammunition depot was hit there. There was no sleep to be had in Russia itself either. Explosions were heard in Sochi and Adler because of unidentified drones.
Here it comes. Light it up. Oh, wow, that was a good one.
It was even hotter in the Samara region. Last night, a number of friendly drones successfully reached an important electrical substation, causing no damage. What a beautiful sight. Like this video if you like it too. The day before, the presidents of Ukraine and the United States met. But before that, Trump really stirred things up with his statements. Amid active discussions about the possible transfer of American long-range Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, Trump spoke with Putin. Who initiated the conversation is unknown, but we do know its consequences. It seems the American president and the bunker dweller are experiencing a new blossoming in their relationship. Because Trump says the conversation went very well. We
just spoke with Putin. I believe it was a very good call.
But that's only half the story, because after the 2-hour conversation, a meeting will follow. Trump announced personal talks with Putin in Budapest in the next 2 weeks. If you immediately thought of the Budapest Memorandum, you're not alone. As reported by Axios, Ukraine was surprised by the news of the conversation between Trump and Putin.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is heading to Washington with great optimism about his meeting with the President of the United States, Donald Trump. But after arriving, he was surprised by the news of Trump's conversation with the Kremlin leader and the agreement to meet in Hungary.
Meanwhile, in Russia, after the dictator's conversation with Trump, spirits are high. The Russian stock market as a whole has gone up. And somewhere, one bunker-dwelling devil is quietly rejoicing. Because Trump stated that the Tomahawks, the transfer of which is already being discussed, are needed by the United States itself.
We also need Tomahawks for the United States of America. We have a lot of them, but we need them ourselves. We can't deplete our country, so they're very important. They're very powerful, they're very accurate, they're very good, but we need them too.
And guess why Trump suddenly started talking like this?
The tragic nature and the issues surrounding the possible supply of long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine. Vladimir Putin repeated his point that Tomahawks will not change the situation on the battlefield, But all this will cause significant damage to relations between our countries, not to mention the prospects for a peaceful settlement.
Trump himself confirmed that he was influenced by Putin's words.
I asked Putin if he minded me giving a few thousand tomahawks to his opponents. He didn't like that.
Now I have a question. How long will this courtship between Trump and Putin continue? And will the issue of tomahawks be raised during the negotiations? Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban and Russian dictator Vladimir Putin spoke on the phone. The main topic is the upcoming meeting with American leader Donald Trump. This was stated by the press secretary of the Russian dictator Dmitry Peskov.
We will soon provide information about the phone conversation with Hungarian Prime Minister Orban. Orban himself also said that his goal was to talk with Putin. This phone conversation took place.
According to him, Hungary was chosen as the venue for the Trump-Putin summit because of its supposedly sovereign position. And one more piece of news. In Hungary, it was made clear that the Russian dictator Putin does not have to fear arrest under the International Criminal Court warrant when he comes to Budapest for the summit with American President Donald Trump. This was stated by Hungarian Foreign Minister Péter Szijjártó during a conversation with journalists. According to him, the dates and details of the Trump-Putin meeting will be announced after all preparatory discussions between officials of the three countries have taken place.
Of course, here in Hungary and Budapest, we are ready to provide the proper conditions so that the American and Russian presidents can hold talks in a safe and calm environment. This is the safest country in Europe. It is one of the safest countries in the world. So if there is anywhere negotiations can be held in safe conditions, it is right here.
At the same time, Szijjártó made it clear that Putin would be able to enter Hungary and then return home without any problems.
We are waiting for President Putin with respect, of course. We will ensure that he can enter Hungary, hold successful talks here, and then return home. No coordination with anyone is necessary. We are a sovereign country. We will welcome President Putin of Russia with respect, receive him as a guest, and provide the conditions for his negotiations with the American president.
How I wish that instead of rolling out red carpets for the world's main terrorist in Europe, they would simply arrest him right at the airport. Or even better, that before landing, some large bird would get into the plane's engine. Actually, no, I feel sorry for the bird. Reading the comments under previous episodes, I see that many of you watch us from Kazakhstan, Moldova, Europe, and even the USA. We Ukrainians are very grateful for your support and proud to have such reasonable viewers. Write under this episode which country you are watching us from and whether people there support our fight against the empire of evil. I always enjoy reading your comments. And for now, we continue. The most interesting part is coming up. And now to the news from the front. The media reports that in the occupied part of the Zaporizhzhia region, after an encounter with a drone, RIA Novosti war correspondent Ivan Zuev was eliminated. In addition, his colleague Yuri Vaitkevich was also affected. He was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. Zuev was an active participant in the information war against Ukraine. Since 2014, he had repeatedly traveled to the occupied Donetsk region and was even awarded Russian honors several times. Special agent prisoner Girkin has issued new criticism of the Kremlin, in which he admitted that Ukraine has become stronger while Russia is running out of cannon fodder. In a new letter from the penal colony, Girkin stated that over the past 2 years, Russia has lost personnel, including volunteers, and is now further from victory than at the start of the invasion.
It turns out the money is running out. And so is the cannon fodder. The enemy has learned how to fight against it.
Girkin writes that during all this time, Ukraine has grown stronger while Russia has grown weaker. At the same time, Putin's ruling circle is incapable of reforms and sacrifices, since it is the Russian people who are supposed to make sacrifices, not themselves. He also predicted that a revolution is inevitable, but that it is unlikely to happen among the upper echelons of power.
It is impossible to break the enemy by capturing a couple more hundred destroyed houses. They will keep grinding up men until their resources run out. Then comes mobilization.
The Ukrainian armed forces are preparing a major offensive on the front. This information is being shared by American President Donald Trump. But we have learned more about the details of this offensive. You will be amazed. All the details are in the report. Ukraine is preparing for a new stage of the war. US President Donald Trump, commenting on the upcoming meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky, stated that Kyiv intends to go on the offensive. According to the American leader, this decision will be one of the key topics in his talks with the Ukrainian president.
We will talk with him about the war, and we will discuss the fact that, as I understand it, they want to launch an offensive. I will make a decision about this, but they would like to start the offensive. You know this, and we will have to make a decision.
We are talking about small local areas squeezed out by the Russian army in the Donetsk region, the so-called Dobropolsky salient, and the Sumy region in northern Ukraine. In other words, these are two locations where Ukraine is currently managing to push out Russian troops. Yes, it's not happening quickly, and yes, it's not on a large scale, but it is happening.
As for the Donetsk region, a fierce defensive operation by the Ukrainian Defense Forces continues in the Pokrovsk direction. The Russian army is suffering colossal losses as it tries to break into the city.
The approaches to Pokrovsk are becoming yet another large graveyard for the Russian army. Thousands of occupiers are being eliminated on the outskirts of the city and in nearby settlements, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine.
Inside the city itself, the fight against enemy sabotage groups continues as the enemy does not stop trying to gain a foothold. There, the defense forces are conducting stabilization and counter-sabotage operations as well as active defense. Thus, since August 21, 2025, Ukrainian defenders have neutralized about 14,000 Russian occupiers. Of these, 8,402 were killed, 5,419 were wounded, and 124 were taken prisoner. A total of 182.8 square kilometers of territory have also been liberated. Another 231 square kilometers have been cleared of sabotage groups. Enemy equipment losses amounted to 1,289 units, including 32 tanks, 101 armored vehicles, 154 artillery systems, 5 multiple rocket launchers, 435 vehicles, 562 motorcycles, as well as more than 4,000 drones.
As for how effectively the Ukrainian army can inflict damage on advancing Russian units while also conducting an orderly retreat, I believe the balance here is maintained. A slow withdrawal as much as possible and inflicting maximum losses on the Russian army. The calculation is that sooner or later the Russian army will not be able to sustain these regular offensive actions due to the heavy losses and will be forced to stop at certain lines. The Russian Federation has been tightening the ring around Pokrovsk for 13 months in a row. The only area where Ukraine is still trying to push back and encircle something is Dobropolye, this salient that the Russian Federation broke through a month ago. But even there, things are not going so well, because the Russian army keeps sending more troops to hold this salient, to maintain this foothold, and to try, once again, this time with much greater forces, to break through this segment of the front and split the Ukrainian front into pieces.
Meanwhile, Trump, commenting on the war, once again addressed the Russian dictator Putin, urging him to stop killing Ukrainians. According to him, Russia has already lost about 1.5 million people in the war, and these are mostly military personnel.
Stop killing Ukrainians. Stop killing Russians.
I think it would be very important right now to finally, so to speak, synchronize our watches with the Americans. In which direction will we be able to move? Because Russia is intensifying its attacks and continues to press on the front. And this obviously is creating serious problems. Will we be able to continue effectively countering all these attempts? All the more so because the Russian Federation continues to receive support from those countries that have also challenged the modern world order. And here's the question: how much can we now hope to see some kind of peaceful settlement in the foreseeable future? Will Trump really change the approaches and vision regarding how a peaceful settlement can be achieved? Or will this already be, so to speak, a different story for a longer-term perspective?
Thus, the upcoming meeting between Trump and Zelensky becomes a key moment on which not only the further situation at the front will largely depend, but also the coordination of military support, the development of strategy, the ability to contain Russian aggression, and the strengthening of Ukraine's position in this war. I never cease to admire the courage and heroism of Ukrainian soldiers. They are holding the front and standing up to a huge horde that vastly outnumbers them. That's why I urge you to support the armed forces of Ukraine, and if you can't do so financially, write them words of encouragement in the comments. I know they're watching us. Well, in Russia, everything is as usual. After Trump's conversation with Putin, Russia came out with another batch of cringe-worthy statements. For example, Kremlin representative Dmitriev suggested building a tunnel between the US and Russia, which has already been dubbed the Putin-Trump Tunnel. Dmitriev proposed that Elon Musk should organize this project. The Russian official wrote about this on social network X on October 16th.
Elon Musk, just imagine the US and Russia, America, and Afro-Eurasia connected by the Putin-Trump Tunnel, a 70-mile line symbolizing unity.
The 100-kilometer tunnel is theoretically supposed to connect the US and Russia. At the same time, the price of all this idiocy is $65 billion. But a Kremlin representative assured that the costs could be reduced to $8 billion.
The time has come. Connect Russia and the US.
What do you think of these ideas? Write everything you think in the comments. I'll definitely read them. Ukraine and Russia are not yet ready for a peace agreement, since there are still too many irreconcilable differences between the sides. This was stated by US Vice President J.D. Vance in an interview with Newsmax.
No matter how much energetic diplomacy by the President of the United States pushes people toward a solution, in the end, both sides must be ready to make a deal. And right now, despite all our efforts, and we will continue them, the Russians and Ukrainians simply have not reached the point where they can make an agreement.
However, Vance clearly stated that, in his considered opinion, a comprehensive settlement is still entirely possible, but it will undoubtedly require much more dedicated work and effort.
I think there is a fundamental mismatch of expectations. The Russians tend to think that they are performing better on the battlefield than they actually are.
And according to Vance, this has made it difficult to reach an agreement in recent months, despite some progress. At the same time, according to him, the administration has found that tariffs have a more effective impact on Russia than sanctions.
Tariffs have proven to be a very effective tool in negotiations with Russia. But sanctions have been used for decades in this particular region of the world and around the globe. And I don't think they really work.
What do you think about Vance's position and statements? Write your thoughts. Don't hold back in the comments.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
The EU may increase the amount of Russian assets for Ukraine by 25 billion euros. The publication Politico reports that the European Union is considering expanding the initiative to use frozen Russian assets. To the already blocked 140 billion euros, Brussels may add another approximately 25 billion. Currently, as is known, the main portion of the frozen assets is held in the financial depository Euroclear, based in Belgium. But the additional 25 billion euros are kept in private bank accounts throughout the bloc. And the EU's executive body wants to discuss using these funds as well to provide loans to Kyiv.
It is necessary to consider whether the loan for reparations initiative can be extended to other frozen assets in the EU. This is stated in a document that the Commission circulated to EU capitals ahead of the Friday meeting of ambassadors on this topic.
EU leaders are expected to hold a broad discussion of the initiative and call on the Commission to provide a loan proposal. EU officials expect the bill to be adopted quickly and to serve as a platform for further negotiations on the financial engineering necessary for its operation. It is reported that the finance minister will discuss the bill at the next meeting in November. Well, for now, we are waiting for some good news. Here is that news. In the Moscow region, a conscript soldier opened fire on his fellow servicemen. 2 people were killed and 1 was hospitalized in serious condition. This was reported by the Russian telegram channel Astra.
According to preliminary data, as a result of the shooting started by the conscript soldier at a military unit in the Narofominsk district, 2 people were killed. 1 soldier with a severe injury was hospitalized, according to the pro-Kremlin channel REN TV, citing a source. The part number is not specified. There is also no word on the shooter's motives. There have been no official comments yet.
At this time, it is unknown what the attackers' motives were. According to the TASS propaganda agency, a commission from the main directorate of the Russian Aerospace Forces Command is working on the site. A criminal case has been opened against the attacker. Criminal case. Russia is already spying on NATO underwater. Putin's submarine was calmly cruising the ocean depths near the coast of France. And the only reason its close proximity to a NATO country became known was thanks to the traditional Russian clumsiness. Whatever they do, it always breaks down. That's exactly what happened with the submarine.
The Russian submarine was detected in the Baltic Sea by the Swedish Navy. The military reported this on the social network X. According to the agency, the vessel entered the Baltic through the Great Belt Strait and was later spotted in the Kattegat Strait between Sweden and Denmark. Air Force units and fighter jets escorted the submarine. The Swedes described this episode as nothing more than a routine mission. The name of the vessel has not been disclosed by the country's navy. It is only known that it is a multi-purpose diesel-electric submarine of the Kilo class according to NATO classification. The same class includes the submarine Novorossiysk, with which the Russians recently embarrassed themselves before the whole world when it unexpectedly surfaced off the coast of France.
In many respects, this is the best submarine not only in the Russian fleet, but in the entire world. Its engine operates more quietly than the sound of the sea outside, which means the vessel can remain undetected on NATO radar screens.
The submarine itself is so well designed that it's no wonder I call it the black hole. In other words, I think detecting this submarine will be a major problem for any potential adversary.
This is how 10 years ago, Russian propaganda spoke about the lead vessel of Russia's modernized submarine project. The Novorossiysk was built specifically for the Russian Black Sea Fleet. The media enthusiastically claimed that the vessel was capable of sinking an entire group of enemy ships. But now in 2025, it seems it's getting ready to go under itself.
According to VCHK GPU, due to damage in the Novorossiysk's fuel system while on combat duty in the Mediterranean Sea, fuel is leaking directly into the bilge. There are no spare parts for repairs or qualified specialists on board the submarine. The crew is unable to fix the malfunction. Because of the serious accident, other problems have started to occur as well. The fuel accumulating in the bilge is an explosive hazard. The source believes that the crew has no choice but to start opening the bilge right in the sea.
In order to, as they say, solve the problem, they have no other option. They will have to pump this water-diesel mixture overboard. Well, basically, yes, of course, if this starts happening, the planes will notice it. There's no doubt that the submarine is being watched by anti-submarine aircraft. The Mediterranean Sea, after all, is quite a densely populated area with military ships from various countries, so a large rainbow-colored slick will be easy to spot. In fact, that's exactly what everyone is watching for right now. However, it should be carefully noted that a submarine which is approximately 70 meters in length is not particularly large, nor does it possess such an enormous volume, although of course any kind of environmental pollution is absolutely unwelcome.
Now hundreds of international experts are monitoring to ensure that the Russians do not trigger an environmental disaster. The Russian Ministry of Defense is putting on a brave face, saying there's no emergency, that everything is going according to plan. At the same time, they forget to clarify that what exactly the vessel was doing in the Mediterranean Sea, given that the withdrawal of the last submarine was reported back in January. And whether there are Novorossiysk caliber missiles on board, which the Russian army launches from such submarines. And most importantly, what the command isn't mentioning at all, is there any danger to the crew's lives?
Diesel fumes are explosive, especially considering that the submarine is literally packed with various electrical devices. At any moment, a spark could cause a fire and the destruction of the submarine and its crew. For me, the main question today is, what exactly is the Russian Federation planning to save? Are they planning to save the hardware, or are they planning to save the people? In my considered opinion, in the unfortunate event of such a serious accident, most of the crew members should have been safely taken off the ship, specifically off the submarine, leaving behind only those sailors who are able to fight for the vessel's survivability. And fighting for survivability, first and foremost, means that all critical compartments of the submarine must be completely sealed. This is absolutely essential so that there would be no dangerous fuel leakage whatsoever throughout all the various compartments of the entire submarine, ensuring its operational integrity and the safety of its crew.
For now, hardware remains the top priority for officials at the Russian Ministry of Defense. And it's clear that the experience of the nuclear submarine Kursk, where 118 crew members died, has taught them nothing. Novorossiysk did not request assistance. And under the watchful eye of NATO anti-submarine aircraft, it is heading to the port of Kronstadt, where it is supposedly expected on October 21st. According to sources from a public channel close to law enforcement, there have been 10 incidents on the submarine during its watch. If Novorossiysk makes it to the base, the crew will be lucky and will be replaced by another. Whether the Russians will be able to revive the submarine is a big question.
This is real cringe, just listen to this. Ramzan Dondon Kadyrov was awarded the Order of the Group of Forces in Germany, which is given to veterans. Dondon received the award from the chairman of the local union of veterans of the Group of Soviet Forces in Germany. This was reported by Caucasian Not.
The order was awarded to the head of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov, and the chairman of the Chechen parliament, Shahid Jamaldayev, who also participated in the meeting with Kovraev. There is no information on the website of the Union of Veterans of the Group of Forces in Germany about the awarding of the order to Ramzan Kadyrov and Shahid Jamaldayev. The statute of the order is also not provided.
The most interesting thing is that the reason for the medal remains a mystery, but even technically there is no reason to award it to the head of Chechnya. The Soviet group of forces was stationed in Germany from 1945 to 1994. And by the time the GDR was dissolved, Kadyrov was only 14. He never served anywhere. Let me remind you, Kadyrov already has more than 85 awards and titles. His latest award, a medal for his contribution to the development of farming, Kadyrov received only on October 12th. And a week earlier, on October 5th, Kadyrov was awarded the title Hero of Chechnya for the second time on the occasion of his birthday. Moreover, he signed the decree for this second awarding himself. Well, personally, I'm not surprised. It's all in Kadyrov's style. What do you think? What award might Don receive next? Write your suggestions in the comments. The EU has presented a plan to prepare for war with Russia by 2030. The European Union is preparing a large-scale plan to rearm the continent, which includes the creation of joint programs for the production of drones, air defense systems, and strengthening military coordination among member states. The EU is preparing for war with Russia.
The Europe that we all loved so much is disappearing.
Bloomberg reports that the EU will launch a large-scale defense reform to be ready for war by 2030.
Plans are great, but once again, they might collide with reality and shatter against that very reality. And especially if this depends on supplies from China, from Southeast Asia, for example, from Taiwan. And if, for example, there is a war in Taiwan, that means Taiwan won't be shipping microelectronics to anyone, and those goods won't be produced. And all these 5 to 7 year plans fall apart and get postponed indefinitely into the future.
According to the plan, by the end of 2027, the European Union intends to carry out almost half of its arms purchases jointly. And that's, mind you, twice as much as it is now.
Money isn't the problem, the money is there. The real question is whether there's actually anything to buy with that money. This isn't like going to the supermarket. The military industry is such that a lot of things are only produced with advance payment. Well, only with advance payment. You provide the funding, you pay, and they will produce exactly what you financed for you. You invest, and only after 3 or 4 years do you actually receive your goods. This doesn't happen quickly, everything moves very slowly.
But for the implementation of joint projects in the fields of air and missile defense, they are already planning to create international coalitions by 2026. But will this really affect all the countries of Europe?
Most likely, the countries that are closer to the Russian Federation, the countries that are the drivers of the European economy, like the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and those that are geographically closer to Russia, such as Poland, the Baltic states, and Finland. They, of course, will be the most interested first and foremost. Italy, Portugal, Spain, they're kind of far away. They're all far away. I think they won't be too interested over there.
It's no secret that for a long time, Europe relied on the US when it came to security. But with Trump's arrival, a lot changed.
He froze relations with the European Union. For the first time in history, the US and Europe stopped looking as a united West and allies. Trump avoids contact with EU officials, ignores their appeals, and simply doesn't respect them. Instead, he communicates directly with the leaders who interest him, bypassing the EU leadership. Without the usual support from the US, both military and financial, the EU risks turning into a museum continent with a glorious past, but a weakened economy and industry.
So how dependent is Europe on the US already, even now? And is it really capable of defending itself?
Europe does not produce everything that the United States of America has. Apparently, for at least another 10 years, they will remain dependent, but the first prerequisites for Europe to move away from US assistance are already emerging. It's clear that Europe, together with the US, is much stronger than Europe without the US.
Europe is planning to arm itself, but why? After all, if you listen to the Kremlin dictator, Russia is the most peace-loving country in the world.
It turns out that war with the Russians is supposedly almost at the doorstep. They repeat this nonsense, this mantra, over and over again. They can't possibly believe what they're saying, that Russia is planning to attack NATO. It's just impossible to believe that.
Maybe European countries simply misunderstood the Kremlin's sincere intentions and are wasting billions for nothing.
Russian propagandists often complain that right now is the best moment, while Europe is weak, while it's divided, while the US has drifted away from Europe to take decisive steps toward those countries that interest them. Again, war correspondents are one thing, but Russian leaders are a completely different story. They see things differently. Are there financial, political, or military capabilities? What will happen? An attempt to predict the outcome.
Putin's Russia is full of surprises. And even when its dictator says one thing, in reality, the exact opposite can happen. And in such a case, the best option is to play it safe, which is exactly what Europe has decided to do. 2 protocols for discrediting the army were drawn up against Diana Loganova, the lead singer of the band Stop Time, on OK. This was reported by the publication Rotunda, citing her close associates. The day before, the singer was arrested for 13 days under the article on violating public order. A protocol was drawn up against Loganova because of her performance near the metro in Saint Petersburg, where she sang the songs You Are a Soldier, Monotochka, and Bright Streak by Noize MC. The police stated that about 70 people attended the performance, which allegedly made it difficult for pedestrians to pass and block the entrance to the metro. Recordings of the performance were published on social media and in immigrant media outlets.
Of the 3 members of the group, only Loganova has protocols for discrediting the army. According to the text of the criminal article on repeated discrediting of the army, Article 280, Section 3 of the Criminal Code of the Russian Federation. Such a case can be initiated if a person commits actions with signs of discrediting the army for a second time after being held administratively liable for the first time within a year. This article provides for a penalty in the form of a fine from 100,000 to 300,000 rubles or imprisonment for up to 5 years.
Diana Loganova is 18 years old. She studies at the Rimsky-Korsakov Music College and sings in the band Stop Time. The band performs songs, including those by so-called banned artists in Russia and foreign agents, which initially attracted the attention of opposition media. Well, what can I say? Russia has hit a new low once again. It's afraid of music, of songs in the subway. Soon, you won't even be able to breathe in the wrong direction. What do you think of our news? Let us know what we should change to become better. We will definitely take your feedback into account. In the meantime, please like this video to support what we do. And be sure to subscribe to our channel Ukraine Today so you don't miss future episodes. See you soon.